Hey everyone, Wolf Lord Rho here. Today we're asking if the Emperor should have taken Vulkan aboard the Vengeful Spirit. Was it a fatal mistake to leave him behind? A general spoiler warning to begin, as today we will be referencing events from across the Warhammer 40k universe, in particular the Horus Heresy. So you have been warned, and with that said, let's just jump straight in. Okay, so Vulkan's story throughout the Heresy series was a bit of an unknown factor. Witnessing his journey after the Salamander's devastation upon Istvan, really unknown territory, especially him ending up upon the throne world itself. Now that was truly shocking, a lore-shaking moment really. Vulkan of course never ever mentioned previously to have been upon Terra during the siege. And well, we witnessed the development of Vulkan creating the Talisman of Seven Hammers, the Doomsday Switch for the Golden Throne, his standing guard by his father's side, his de facto bodyguard, until the time came for the final gambit and the Emperor's boarding of the Vengeful Spirit. Here the lore would remain as always told. Rogal, Dorn and Sanguinius would be by the Emperor's side, the only two Primarchs to accompany the Emperor. Vulkan would be left behind. Now, was that a catastrophic mistake? Should Vulkan have accompanied the Emperor aboard the Vengeful Spirit? Perhaps in hindsight it's easy to say yes. Sanguinius fell, and the Emperor was mortally wounded. But I don't think it's so straightforward. They did technically win after all. Let's begin with, could Vulkan have helped the situation were he there? Well, the presence of any extra Primarch would of course have been a huge addition. Another factor for chaos to worry about. And Vulkan in particular could have been a very tricky proposition. His perpetual nature meant chaos would have had a huge task on their hands. That no matter what the ruinous powers threw at him, he'd simply keep on coming, fighting through it all, even death. So that immediately would have been a massive boost to the Emperor and his companions. Having a Primarch the Emperor knew, no matter what, would not fall. And you have to say, for all the skill of, say, Sanguinius, the focus of Rogal, if you wanted any Primarch going up against the chaos-embraced Warmaster, it would surely have been Vulkan. Because you know all of them are vastly outmatched. But Vulkan alone could just keep on coming, again and again and again, just wearing his opponent down, exactly as he did against the demon-elevated Magnus within the webway. Magnus must have killed him 100 times over, but Vulkan simply would not be stopped, until he eventually won. You'd imagine he would have given exactly the same effort against Horus. And if I remember right, Vulkan wasn't overly fond of Horus originally anyway, so he wouldn't have had quite the same heartbreak within as Sanguinius either. So you have to say, the thought of Vulkan joining the Emperor aboard the Vengeful Spirit is a no-brainer. Because the Emperor of all knew exactly what Vulkan was capable of. As much as I love Sanguinius and Rogal, and hey, even Valdor, surely Vulkan offered by far the best chance of victory aboard the Vengeful Spirit. The Emperor aside, of course. As far superior in skill as Sanguinius might have been, he still only had one life to give. So from that context, you can absolutely see why not taking Vulkan was indeed a mistake, or at the very least could be seen as one. However, even if Vulkan had have gone, that doesn't automatically ensure victory. In fact, far from it. Take Rogal for example, one of the most steadfast, determined sons. He found himself barely involved upon the events of the Vengeful Spirit at all, the ruinous powers ensnaring him within a vision of a desolate wasteland, forcing him to feel as if he was living out entire lifetimes of abandonment, pushing him to the very brink of insanity. He wasn't really able to take part until it was too late. There's no reason the ruinous powers couldn't have done the same to Vulkan. No, Vulkan probably wasn't as mentally broken as Rogal by this point, thanks to the Emperor and his rebirth upon Nocturne. But given the threat he represented, I'm sure the ruinous powers would have tried. And then there's the distinct possibility that even if Vulkan did reach the War Master, at that point Horus was so consumed by the full powers of the Pantheon, he may well have been able to give Vulkan a true death. Just obliterate him, unmake him. If anyone could have, it certainly would have been the War Master. In the end, we saw how easily and brutally he finished the Angel, and was even more powerful than the Emperor. So again, even if the Emperor had have taken Vulkan, it wouldn't necessarily have changed anything. But I do have to say, given Vulkan's gifts, you do have to think it would have been a big help. So why didn't he? Why didn't the Emperor take Vulkan? Most likely the one Primarch who promised the best hope of victory. Well, the whole purpose for Vulkan even being on Terra was to deliver and man the Talisman of Seven Hammers. As the Emperor himself stated within the novel Old Earth, which is why it had to be you. It has ever been within you, Vulkan, and I hoped such a day would not come to pass, that I had need of it. I hoped for a great many things, he said sadly. Your death, your true death and resurrection, brought forth what you needed to fashion the talisman. Of all your pain, the suffering of your legion, it has led us to this point. Vulkan met his father's gaze, defiant. And if I refuse, you will not refuse, for you still believe in hope that I will prevail, that Horus will be stopped, and the war will end. But you are also pragmatic, and know that this must be done, in case hope fails us in the end. Now, it doesn't explicitly state that Vulkan himself has to be the one to activate the device, but it's implied that Vulkan's the only one who can truly appreciate the cost, and yet has the pragmatism to know it has to be done. Maybe revealing the other Primarchs wouldn't be able to correctly determine the right moment, or even if they should use it. The novel The End and the Death Volume 1 gives us a little more exactly, with Malkador speaking to Vulkan. Vulkan, I say gently, you deserve to go, but you will not, for I need you. I'm sorry. Your father is about to ask me to wield the Golden Throne in his place. It's not a task I welcome, but I'll do it without demur. I need you here at my side. You know, sadly too well, the reason why. He pauses. In the long moment that follows, I see Vulkan's jaw clench. I know he feels robbed of honour in this, but the reason is irrefutable. Vulkan has no gift whatsoever for the operation of the throne, no ethereal magic, which is why Vulkan, and only Vulkan, must stay to take my place if I fail. For if I fail, then all is truly lost, and Vulkan must take the throne and prevent Horus from obtaining all the riches, secrets, treasures and mysteries of the palace. Forever. So that earlier comment of the Emperor's of why it had to be Vulkan makes sense. That there's nothing out there about him, nothing psychic. He is the very earth, grounded. Again, not an exact answer maybe, but the point is clear. Vulkan had to stay to guard the throne, in case the worst came to the worst. And it could only be Vulkan. And I think it's worth keeping in mind that the Emperor didn't plan on taking any of them to face Horus, in fact. He actually was going to go alone. It was only the objections of the Primarchs and Valdor that saw him relent. And even then he still wasn't going to take Sanguinius. So it certainly implies the Emperor thought the task was beyond them. That he knew he was the only one capable, who even had a chance of winning. And bear in mind at this point, he hadn't yet begun to absorb the warp himself to enhance his power, which was clearly his plan. He knew it was most likely even beyond himself, as he was. So, at the end of the day, was it a mistake to leave Vulkan behind? I am pretty torn on this one, I have to say, but I think you have to land on no, because Vulkan was the only one to destroy the throne. Malcador's death was a virtual certainty, and the Emperor's truly in jeopardy, for the first time ever really. Considering chaos was literally hammering on the very door, defeat was far more likely than any victory. So there wasn't really a decision to make. Vulkan had to stay. He couldn't go. Simple as that. And of course Vulkan actually going to the Vengeful Spirit might have been a retcon too far. However, in the context of would it have helped? Would chances of victory have been higher? Were Vulkan there? I think the answer is undoubtedly yes. Witnessing everything Vulkan went through against Magnus, you just can't help but think he couldn't be stopped. That he was, out of the 3 Primarchs available, the best option. But I think it's also highly likely his death at the hands of Horus would have been permanent. And of course in that situation, Vulkan would have given a sacrifice of life just like the angel. What a twist to the tale that would have been. But as always everyone, what do you think? Do you think Vulkan not accompanying the Emperor aboard the Vengeful Spirit was a mistake? Should Vulkan have gone, and the Emperor simply gone all in? All the dice in a final gamble? Did it really have to be Vulkan to destroy the throne? Was Rogal incapable? He's hardly a psyker himself. Or was it the right decision to make, given how events transpired? Do you think the traitor Warmaster would have been able to give Vulkan a true death? Or would Vulkan simply have been ensnared by chaos, as was the case with Rogal? As always everyone, leave your thoughts in the comments below. Huge thank you to all my subscribers, your support truly means a lot to me, it really does. If you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. And if you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too. But with that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again real soon.